Good morning. It's Wednesday, May 3rd, and an important group of people have voted to strike. This is not a serious, major catastrophe, but it could affect our lives. It could affect the fact that we spend time watching shows and things like that, because there's a very important group of people that are associated with what we watch on television and what we read. So I'm talking about writers. People who write stories, people who write news, people whose profession is putting words on paper that make things understandable most of the time. And even sometimes they are clever enough to write some very entertaining things. In any event, the Writers Guild of America, which has I don't know how many people, but 11,000 of them have voted to go on strike. And that's 98% of the members of the Writers Guild of America. The primary reason for the strike appears to be that the studios have reduced job opportunities, which has caused a loss of sources of income to the members of the WGA. Now, the reason that there has been this downward shift in opportunities is due to the fact that the industry has shifted toward streaming services. A streaming service is an online provider of entertainment, music and movies, things like that. And it delivers the content via an internet connection to the subscriber's computer or their TV or their mobile device. So we're looking at Netflix, Amazon Prime, Hulu, Spotify, Apple Music. Those are all high-profile examples of streaming services. But there are many other streaming services, and many of them are free, like Freedive and Hoopla and Canopy and Pluto. So we have a lot of competition out there against writing from scratch. So the Writers Guild wants to factor into their payroll methodology the streaming economy. Because apparently when work that they have done gets streamed, they don't get any money from that. Whereas when a show was repeated on air, the writers of that show were compensated for another viewing audience. So this has cut back on a lot of the money they made because reruns are now streamed as opposed to being reruns that are generating salary for the writers. So in this new contract negotiation, they want a piece of the streaming economy, right? So because if you take a look at the volume of activity in the streaming world, you can understand why the writers feel gypped. Not a nice word, but I think very appropriate in this particular situation. Even though I know it has a derogatory background, I have chosen to use it. I don't know if you've noticed this. I haven't noticed it because I haven't really been watching that much TV from the regular stations. But the rise of streaming has caused fewer episodes in a show's season than before. Shows that run on broadcast network typically include 20 or more episodes a season. But that's not the case with shows that are ordered by Netflix and others. So if you have a show that's ordered for streaming, you don't get them as many episodes. And obviously, every episode needs a writer or two writers. So if you only have 13 shows in a season instead of 20 shows in a season, you can understand why the writers feel that they have been treated poorly in this situation. Because you have cut their salaries in half almost. So this is like seeing a bunch of Ubers on the road and thinking it's a good time to be a taxi driver. But it's not a good time if there's a whole bunch of Uber drivers out there. So working as a writer is much, much harder than it used to be. And the level of compensation and the treatment and the expectations are fundamentally down from where they were. So now you're looking at a much bleaker future if you want to be a writer. Less opportunities to use your skill set. So there has to be some additional forms of compensation. Or maybe those who run these shows think they can run it without it. Maybe they're thinking of places like AI and Bard that could write the scripts for them. You know, I messed around with Bard the other day and I created a nice little guy, a robot that talked, but I got everything he said from Bard. So maybe that's the way the producers of shows are thinking of going. Maybe they'll go out into the world of AI and be like the college students who had the essays written for them. Maybe they could produce an entire show using AI. Now the writers have thought about that, and they recognize the fact that AI is a potential disaster for them. So the union has gone ahead and asked studios to establish standards around the use of AI. It wants the use of AI regulated in terms of material created for the studios. Now that's very unclear what you can do with AI and what you can do with humans. And who knows what the powers in the entertainment world will agree to. So there are a number of hurdles that the Writers Guild has to overcome to deliver the proper message to its membership. The Guild has advised members that the initial round of talks will last 2 weeks. And then there will be a break so that its members can come together and talk about the progress that's been made. But there's no way there's any agreement that's going to happen before, I don't know, the middle of May or something like that. So when you look at this is an indication of the future for all work, because who knows where robotics and AI will lead us in the future. It will be quite possible that many other unions will recognize the threat of robotics and strike the same way the Writers Guild has. Because when robots cut into the salaries of working people, that is not a good thing. And we all know that in many industries, jobs have been lost to robots. So that's the future. And people have to learn to contend with that. We must all recognize the good of AI and the bad of AI. And we must learn how to contend with it. So I leave you with that this morning. Have a great day. Bye.